All right, what's going on there, fellas? Today is a rest day for you, boy. I did my hour of steady state cardio that I like to do on my rest days, which I definitely got to keep my foot on the gas there because my general aerobic condition, I'm not going to lie, it's slipped a little bit more than what I like. And I find that my training goes a lot better when I'm putting in that hour of steady state on my rest days. I think that when I'm in better shape, I recover between sessions better. Not much controversial there. Everybody kind of agrees with that. And I think there's just something to be said for the ability to do a lot of work within an hour then translates to being able to do more effective training during the week. So I'm almost kind of attacking that ability to do a lot of physical work in that 1 hour time period. And then I can take that work capacity and apply it to things that are a little bit more specific to what I want to do, which is to get very strong. Now, you can definitely get into a bunch of arguments about like HIIT cardio would be more specific to what I do as a strongman, or you could say HIIT cardio is almost redundant with what I do as a strongman, fatigue cost, blah, 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 blah. I don't really care to get into that discussion right now. We can definitely have that discussion at some point, but some cardio is going to have the effect of doing cardio, whichever one you choose to do. And I like to do steady state. I find that just kind of gritting down and dealing with a certain amount of discomfort for an hour, good for my brain, it's good for my body, it has a positive effect on my recovery, it has a positive effect on my ability to train, and it's just something that I got accustomed to at a young age doing road work for boxing, and to me it's just an integral part of my physical training, right? I do my mobility every day because flexibility is a part of my physical development. I do my strength training 5 days a week. I do my cardio every day with a longer time dedicated to it on my rest days because endurance is a part of my physical development, and I want to be well-rounded probably isn't the right word because evenly developed is not kind of what I have in my head. It definitely skews a lot towards the strength, but I want to be like, I want to have high-level physicality. That's what I want. And that kind of includes all of those facets of flexibility, endurance, and strength, power, speed, that kind of stuff. So while I was walking on the old incline treadmill, when I'm in good shape, I do it as a ruck with added weight. When I'm in less good shape, just a very high incline at a pretty moderate pace is enough to be rigorous. And then when I'm in good shape, I need to add a little bit of external load. I prefer like high incline walking over running because I do weigh 260. So there's kind of a joint fatigue management issue there. But I was doing my incline walk, jamming out to some tunes, and I was thinking about, man, I should probably make a video today. You know, we're doing the large lads every week. We're doing the little check-in on my deadlift training. But I figured I could check in and tell you guys what I'm doing to get my grip stronger. Because I have a routine that I'm looking forward to every single week. I'm really digging it. It's working really well for me, so I figured I would share it with you guys. But real quick, before we get into that, had more some like philosophical musings I was going to share. If you don't care, skip ahead. No offense taken. Most people don't follow me for my ramblings. They probably follow me to see my lifts. But I was thinking about it, and I think I've mentioned on the podcast with Max, right? Like I sometimes see lifters on Instagram who are definitely got the delusions of grandeur going big time. They take themselves real serious, like just like very unironically, like I'm a fucking Viking going to war, like basically it really seems like they're under the impression a lot more rides on the success of their lifting than actually does, and they take themselves wicked serious. And I notice a lot of people will clown them in the comments, and fair enough, it is maybe a little bit goofy, but I've always been genuinely, wholeheartedly jealous of those people. Man, if I thought like there were people I have to prove wrong who adamantly like are against me and I'm a Viking. If I believed all that, goddamn, I'd be so extra fired up to train every day. Dude, if I could sell myself on that stuff, that'd be huge. So I'm almost genuinely jealous of the people that are under this impression, which I often think about. And I think if you're rational, you're like, yeah, no, this is my hobby. I do it for fun. Maybe there's some benefits to like my joint health and my aging. Maybe I just do this because I want to lift heavy stuff, but not much past that. This doesn't objectively matter all that much, right? And I think that, you know, you become a more grounded person by not taking yourself too seriously. But that being said, I think that there's something fun about taking yourself a little too seriously. I would never do it externally. I definitely recommend against doing that or you're going to get fucking clowned. But internally, maybe take yourself a little bit more serious. This is something that I've definitely caught myself being guilty of many times, is internally not taking myself serious enough. Because if you truly understand like, this stuff doesn't matter, then why would you really get fired up to do it? Whereas if you can if you could allow yourself that little bit of like, man, I would try to deadlift 1,000. Is that a realistic goal? Probably not. But letting myself get like lost in the sauce a little bit, like I was walking on the treadmill, I was getting fired up, and I was like, man, I want to deadlift 1,000. I want to be a fucking monster. Yada 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 yada. Right now, is that the most analytical, objectively intelligent talk about my training? No, but I'm very excited to deadlift tomorrow. So I think there's something to be said to like let yourself be a little cringe internally. Probably don't make it external, but you can let yourself take yourself a little seriously, and you can let yourself kind of set some out there goals. Get after it. It's fun. I don't really have a point with this, but it was just something I was thinking about on the treadmill today when I was also thinking about making this video, talking to you guys about my grip, and I was like, I'll throw it in there as well. It's just something I've been guilty of myself, of probably just not taking myself seriously enough. You know, you only have one life. It seems cooler if you're really bought into everything you do extremely matters. So I'm going to choose to believe that, whether it's objectively reality or not. Life sounds better and more interesting if I'm heavily invested that everything I do is of huge consequence and it's cool and that other people actually care what I'm doing. I'm just going to believe and go through my life like that because it's cooler and more fun. But my incoherent rambling aside, let's get into the grip training a little bit. So when we talk grip, grip is function specific. If a cursory glance into like grip sports, you know, you ask them like, hey man, you're into grip sports. What is like the low hanging fruit? What's like the day one if I was taking a course on grip training? And generally speaking, if you go to most of the authorities that I've seen within the realm of like very specific grip training, is the understanding that grip is function specific, and there's a certain number of different types of grip, and that number differs depending on how specific you get and who you ask. But you have like grip endurance, you have crushing grip, you've got pinch grip, are like kind of the most three commonly cited ones, and then we have a whole bunch of other like crimp grip. There's a bunch of other grips, and grip is specific, right? So yes, there is some carryover between different types of grip, but it's not quite as much as we wish it was. So if we want a specific kind of grip, we have to train for it. And that's why while grippers are cool and a cool feat of strength, if you're trying to train to hold on to a deadlift, they might not be my first choice. Though something is better than nothing, just the fact that you are getting your grip stronger will have some correlation going on there. But if we're looking for the most efficient way to train for a specific task, it's going to mirror that specific task, and that kind of applies to the types of grip strength. So I've been looking into this because obviously grip is called upon often in my sport of strongman. I have tiny little baby hands, so it's something that I need to work on year-round to make sure it's not a weakness. It's not something I can just get away with doing like, oh, grips in the next show, 10-week prep, I can get in shape. Lots of guys can. Lots of guys with bigger hands can very much get away with that. They say grip trains quickly, grip detrains quickly. But in my efforts to be well-rounded, I know this is something that I'm going to have a genetically harder time chasing down. Maybe pressing comes a little easier to me. Grip is going to come a little bit more difficult. So I need to keep my foot on the gas year-round. Now, grip is going to be task-specific, and generally in strongman, we're looking at feats of grip endurance, right? We're either picking something up and carrying it, holding it for time. We're going to be looking at generally feats of grip endurance. So the first and foremost like layer of our grip training is going to be specific, right? If we're training for a Hercules hold, we're going to set up the closest thing we can do to a Hercules hold. As soon as we get that event, we know it's coming up, we're going to do that. And again, the best way to get better at anything, first and foremost, is to do that thing. If we're trying to get better grip for our deadlift, let's say you're a power lifter and you pull mixed grip, the best grip program, I've shilled for it many times that I've ever been told, is just, hey, every working set of deadlifts you do, on the final rep, hit a 5-count hold before putting it down. It builds in very specific, heavy, good grip work to your training at no real extra cost mentally or time-wise. This is what we have Max do. This is what I have a lot of my athletes do that are powerlifters. If they've got any semblance of grip issue on the horizon, or even if they don't, right? Because you don't have a grip issue till you do, that 5-count hold protocol goes a long way. Very similarly, if we're prepping for something like a farmer's carry for strongman, the best grip exercise we can do will be using the farmers and then doing a hold at the end of the set, or after your working sets of carrying, then doing holds for time, or maybe a heavy pick every now and then. But using those specific implements to get in some extra grip training when we do the farmers, by doing a hold at the end, or doing a hold afterward, or doing a pick afterward. All of these are really, really good options and are kind of our top tier of the grip training, is whatever we're trying to get better at. Now, of course, I'm doing these things whenever I'm training. For strongman, I deadlift in straps, so maybe I'll warm up double overhand, and that'll be my equivalent. But for farmers, I'll include the holds, cool, boom, pow. We've checked that list. But a lot of our auxiliary grip work, if we deem that to be necessary, which it absolutely is for me, so I'm doing it. I need to have strong grip. I can't let myself slack on this. Is going to be kind of grip endurance focused for different time intervals. And gosh golly, there's a lot of good grip exercises out there, and people are very passionate about grip training. So anytime I mention like my favorite grip training, someone spazzes on me and they're like, well, what about kettlebell swings? Those fry my grip. That's awesome. There's tons of good grip exercises. Anything that works your grip rigorously towards failure is going to get your grip stronger for sure. But my favorite two tools in this second tier of auxiliary grip work are going to be hangs for time and holds, like behind the back holds for time. Now, I may have mentioned in the past how I do really like the hangs. The hangs can be included after sets of pull-ups to build a little bit of extra grip into your routine. We can hang single arm from the bar as we get stronger. We can hang single arm holding a dumbbell in the other hand as we get stronger. So it kind of checks one of my important boxes of, am I going to outgrow this exercise, or can I see it kind of scaling indefinitely for the rest of my training career? And there's nothing wrong with an exercise you might outgrow if you're in that area where it is useful. Good, make use of it. That's not really a problem, so to speak. But that being said, I don't like that. I don't like knowing that this isn't going to serve me for a long time. Hangs are really good. You could do bilateral hangs and add weight with a dip belt. Or one of my favorite variations is putting the catches up high, putting the bar across the catches, and hanging from the bar that's able to rotate. That way it's like holding onto a barbell that's trying to rotate your hand open. And you'll find, oh man, I can do minutes and minutes on a regular bar, but the second I switch over to this barbell, like 30, 40 seconds is cooking me because it's trying to roll your hand open. It's part of the reason that a mixed grip is easier than overhand grip is by offsetting our grip. We are negating that ability to have for it to roll our fingers open. It's the same reason that holding on to a dumbbell is very difficult, but that same weight on a farmer's handle is substantially easier because it's pulling straight down and it's not trying to roll your grip open. Now, that being said, my love for hangs aside, my current grip, Max has a very deadlift hold after work sets plus hang heavy grip training routine. There's a nice component there that it is actually loaded, but in a totally opposite direction, so we don't have to manage fatigue. If we're doing really heavy picks off the rack, or we're doing really heavy farmer's holds, we're adding on more kind of spinal compression into our training, which, especially in strongman, is a finite resource that we're having to spread across a whole bunch of different training tasks, and probably not the best to use it on grip, because there's other events we probably need to spend that kind of low back fatigue on. But what I have been doing is a behind the back hold centric grip routine. I've heard a couple of guys, I've heard Big Laws say it, I've heard a couple of grip guys say it. I think I heard Andy Bolton mention it at one point. You'll notice that if you've been watching his videos, Thor has been using this largely as one of his go-to grip exercises in preparation for the Arnold this weekend, where they have two grip exercises in the frame carry and the Denny Stones. Denny Stones being like kind of a grip, it's a little bit more complicated than just saying it's a grip exercise because hook grip is kind of a necessity on those thinner rings. I digress, right? My speculations about the Arnold aside. And part of the reason that guys are so adamant to do the holds behind the back is because you can kind of cheese in front of you holds. You can kind of bend your knees a little bit. You can support it on your thighs. You can use your thighs to stop your fingers from rolling open, which is totally fine. Again, hard grip work works. But that being said, I like being able to measure my progress and have performance metrics for anything. If I want stronger legs, yeah, we're going to have a pretty multifaceted approach for that for strongman because leg strength is going to manifest a bunch of different ways, but I like having a standardized squat to depth that I can see, okay, I'm definitely better this year than I was last year, and rinse and repeat, right? Having these baseline lifts in a sport where things vary a lot, I like having this background pure strength training program of like, hey, we squat, we deadlift, we press, we have a grip work, right? And these things kind of are our general strength training on top of our event-specific training. That way we have something that isn't changing all the time to gauge our forward progression in our overall physicality. And behind the back holds, I really like because you can't chase them at all. They're behind you, you can't post your thighs under it. So if you see improvements in your metrics on these, you know your grip is better than it was last week, is better than it was last month, and it's something that has no upper limit. limit. I can progress these for the rest of my training career. If I get hurt, I can see a regression and I can see it return back to baseline, and I can always have a feel objectively for where my grip is at. Whereas if I'm doing different grip events in different shows, who's to say what my overall level of grip preparation, it's gotten better, it's gotten worse? I don't know unless I have something that's kind of, I'm able to do at any gym I train at. I will say that if you have a bent bar, it makes it really easy. So fair warning, if you have a bent bar, you might be heavily inflating your numbers compared to a regular bar, again, because of this whole opening your hand spinning thing that happens. But right now, what I'm doing for grip, in addition to my regular event training, is I'm adding a hold to the end of my pull-up sets, just like a 10 count with my weighted pull-ups. I am warming up for some of my deadlifts, double overhand sometimes. And the biggest thing is I have a dedicated grip session on my event day where I'll work up to a top set of behind the back holds, and I'll have a different time target. So like usually I'll be like, okay, it's going to be max time, and if that time exceeds 30 seconds, I add 10 pounds the next week. So that's kind of my top set. And if you find I'm stalling out with my 30-second target, we could work on a 15-second hold for a little bit, a 45-second, a 1 minute, anywhere from like even a heavy pick all the way out to 1 minute. We can get our variety when things get stagnant from varying our time protocols rather than varying the exercise. That way we can kind of keep a grasp on where our grip is at. That's my preference, at least. It's the same thing of like, yeah, if I can't add weight to my squat 5s, I'll do squat 8s for a little bit and then come back to the 5s and presumably continue, rather than continuing with 5s and picking a different exercise, just because it's harder for me to keep a exact grasp of where I'm at with that kind of category of physicality, which would be like, that's kind of squat pattern strength, quad strength, however we want to say it. This would be grip strength. And I have a little spreadsheet where I've got, okay, the longest I've held 315, the longest I've held 325, 405, all of these things. So that way when I rotate back to a number, like maybe I add 10 a week, I got to beat the last time I did that. And I never cleared that compendium. That way I'm just continually getting better over time. Now there will be regressions if I pick up a small injury or something, but that way I'm just kind of held accountable to exceed my time the last time I did that weight over and over and over. And then I include down sets. And the down sets, what I like to do is different variations of the behind the back hold. So maybe I'll do a thumbless one to kind of focus on strength of the fingertips. The other one I really like to include here is fat grips. You'll kind of, when we were talking earlier of like, hey, if I'm talking to a grip guy, what's kind of grip 101? You'll hear, okay, well, there's different types of grips, and everybody will tell you fat grips are the shit. Fat grips are a very useful tool. If you're heavily interested in grip, fat grips are something that should be in your gym bag. They're just kind of like a day one entry level, just like if you're getting into powerlifting, you probably get a belt. If you're getting into grip, you probably get fat grips. They're just such a useful tool that we're going to use on so many exercises, and that very much applies here. I find like doing thumbless work kind of works on that ability to maintain the finger position, and then either doing fat grips, so a thick diameter bar, whether that's axle, fat grips, or a pinch grip off of some kind of pinch block, really works on the ability to kind of adduct that thumb and lock in the other side of the grip. So in the past, this was a big issue I had. I felt like the thumb wasn't really giving me that much extra. I felt very strong with a thumbless grip, and I didn't feel like putting the thumb on the other side was actually giving me very much more time on my holds. So strength, taking that thumb away from the center line, really forcing it to work harder to adduct, really made it so then when I went to add my thumb into my regular grip, I was able to crunch in that other side, and it made my grip that much stronger. So I very much like doing either something pinch grip or something with a thick grip, whether that's the axle or the fat grips. So usually what I'll do is I'll do one top set of behind the back hold. Let's say on average we're looking for a 30-second target. Then I maybe do a thumbless set. Then I do a set so I drop the weight back, do a thumbless set, drop the weight back a little bit more, do a set on the fat grips, and then finally I'll do a thumbless set with the fat grips, and just try to beat all of these sets week to week. Maybe if I find that one of these variations is really weak, I'll do repeating sets to get in more work there. But the most important thing with all the back sets is I can have fun and beat those week to week, as long as my core metric, which is that top set of max time behind the back hold, is progressing, then I can kind of have fun with playing with the other things. It's kind of the same thing of like, I like that squat to stay present as my general proxy for leg strength. Now, it doesn't need to be a powerlifting squat. No, we're all engaging in general strength training. Now, if you're a powerlifter, you're kind of tied to a competitive technique. If you're a weightlifter, you're kind of tied to a competitive technique. But those of us who are engaging in general strength training can find, okay, well, what squat variation works the best for my body, whether it's front squat, SSB, back squat, high bar, low bar, pause. whatever it is, but then we stick with that as our general metric for that strength. And then we have some flexibility with playing around with the assistance exercises under that, as long as that main exercise stays consistent. And that's kind of where I draw the line for fiddling with keeping the training fun and different over time, kind of getting some cool gains out of novel stimulus without kind of goalpost moving and never actually getting better. This is something I was very guilty of on my squat, is I would pick a new squat every other training cycle, and because I was constantly moving the goalpost, I wasn't forced to address the fact that I need to get stronger objectively, right? So I think chronic goalpost moving is definitely an issue I see, but we can still have fun and get some novel stimulus by rotating the exercises below that core performance metric. So that's my rant. I'm sure this will get a little less views, not the most exciting video, but if you liked it, let me know. I appreciate all of you that have joined the Patreon. There's not really anything on there. You're just on there to support the channel, which I appreciate a good bit. Eventually, I'll think of something fun that we can do on there to add a little additional value past just saying, oh, you're supporting the channel. But I appreciate you boys as always.